Hello and welcome. Continuing with looking at your comments and trying to maybe answer some of your questions. This little creature has a question, but I'm afraid I don't speak that language. So we'll look at these. If everything is impermanent, subject to change, what created or maintaining the phenomenal world or universe constantly and apparently for eternity? Question mark. And then where do this constant energy moving all atoms, this perpetual cosmic vibration, this life force come from? And isn't it immutable, permanent? All conditioned things are impermanent. I mean, it is known scientifically this universe is impermanent, and it is proposed scientifically that the universe came from an explosion. It continues to grow as is evident from astrology, and is that the right word? Looking into space with telescopes, etc. What their predictions scientifically are that the universe expands, and then one day in a very long time, I don't know, goes back to the beginning, turns into a black hole or whatever. So even universes, planetary systems, so solar systems, are not permanent. We know from our own planet itself of its impermanence. Albeit in the context of our lives, it seems permanent, but it is certainly not so. Our lifespan spans in themselves are very short, almost like that of a mayfly or a mosquito, even something like this, by comparison to that of our predecessors, the dinosaurs, for instance, and humanity has been around for such a short time. So even these things you describe here are, in fact, by their very nature, impermanent. However, the Buddha said, don't bother yourself with these four questions. We call these the achintaya, for imponderables, and they are the knowledge and power of the Buddha. So he knows everything, the answers to all things, because he can recollect past lives, which go back through countless numbers of these kalpas, which are very long, incalculable, unimaginable lengths of time, including big bangs and implosions to black holes, so whole universes coming about and then ceasing, and coming about again and then ceasing. His recollection of previous lives is so vast, it goes back an unimaginable number of lives through all of those big bangs and implosions. So he can remember and know how impermanent all conditioned things are from his own experience. But he doesn't expect us to get our heads around this. He says to try and understand, comprehend, and intellectually think about these four things would, in his words, cause your head to split in two, metaphorically speaking. So don't bother trying. The rest of the other three are the abilities of those with deep concentration. So those people whom attain to deep levels of absorption in their meditation, we call jhanas, where at certain levels of jhana experience one can perhaps recall previous lives and maybe get a glimpse of Nibbana. Again, do not try to understand, imitate those abilities of people able to do that. It is something that can only be gained experientially, like knowledge of the powers of the Buddha. Only a Buddha will know this through experience, and it isn't explainable, it isn't tangible for our simple human minds. The abilities of those who attain to high levels of jhana. Wait with your own practice until you get there to know of this experientially. Don't try to think of it. Details also of how karma and vipaka, karma, which is all of our actions of body, speech and mind, vipaka, the results of those, how this actually works. Of course, we know if we do good, it will result in bad. If we do bad, if we do good, it results in good things happening. If we do bad things, it results in bad things happening, in a simplistic view. However, to try and understand how that affects us over countless rebirths or previous lives is again an imponderable, one of the achintaya. And finally, speculation about the universe and its origin. So in Buddhism there is Buddhist cosmology explaining the different levels of or realms that are perhaps areas into which we can be reborn, but it isn't necessary for us to fully understand this, although it is quite interesting and nice and helpful for us to have a map of such existences in order to understand how our actions of body, speech and mind can in fact propel what is not a permanent soul, but purely the results of our actions, vipaka, into different realms, from animal realms or hell realms to heavenly realms and godly realms. However, all of this, so these four things, knowledge of the Buddha, abilities of people with deep states of jhana, details of how karma works and the origins of the universe, the Buddha said, don't try and contemplate these. Now, after all, what is the point? If you knew the answers to all of these things, how would it actually help? It would not assist you, this knowledge, in any respect. I mean, we can make a guess, we can have scientific opinion, we can have all kinds of theories, ideas, and we can spend our entire lives researching these things. But until we experience them for ourselves, we do not know the truth. The truth we do know is the truth of this very existence we're experiencing here and now, of anicca, impermanence, the impermanence of all conditioned things, dukkha, so therefore their unsatisfactoriness, and anatta, that they are not within our control, neither are these physical bodies or these thinking brains within the scope of our control. We call not self, in a way. Not that there's no self. Of course there is a personality, a presence, someone we identify or people identify with when communicating. We may be a monk, we may be a factory worker, a farmer, a businessman, it doesn't matter. This is our kind of conventional identity. Very transient, fickle, impermanent, insubstantial. As it is, it's what we consider to be ourselves, but not in the true sense of the word self. Anatta means not self. Not that there is no self, but that isn't it. This perception of what we believe we are as a result of causes and conditions. Your question, though, is about energy and the universe. Who made it? Where did it come from? And what keeps it going into eternity? Well, karma. All actions of body, speech and mind have their results. Now, if we were to do some terribly bad things to maybe cause this planet to explode, it would be the end of this planet. Or if we were to do some wonderful things to preserve its life as long as possible, it may extend the length of this planet. However, whatever we do, as a very insignificant part of this planet Earth, humanity, we are never going to beat nature. Nature can decide. In this very spot where I'm sitting, some 20 years ago now, in this country, 35,000 people were wiped out, killed in a matter of minutes. In a matter of minutes, on one Boxing Day morning, with 1 or 2 waves coming onto the beach, the tsunami. It affected this country a long, long way from its origin because of the way the wave wrapped itself around the bottom of this country and flipped up this side, the far side of where it originated from. The largest train disaster in history. Something like 7,500 people on a train. Many who climbed on the train to avoid the wave, but even that didn't save them. The entire railway track, train, huge heavy train, was moved some 500 meters inland by the force of the sea. Was that predicted? No. Could it be changed or controlled? No. We're very insignificant, aren't we? 35,000 people gone just like that in minutes. So these things happen. Why try to contemplate them? Why waste that time when what you can be doing is practicing to become free from suffering in this very lifetime by losing these attachments to this insubstantial being that we are, this transient part of our existence. So that's what the Buddha had to say about it, and of course many other religions have their own ideas, but not in terms of Theravada Buddhism. You can entertain yourself with these ideas, but that is not where you find the answers. You find the answers in the Four Noble Truths and the Noble Eightfold Path. Moving on to the next question. Could you make Dharma about cravings, please? How it works in the life of simple ordinary people. Cravings killed many members of my close family. So I'm sorry to hear that, and cravings do. Addictions can kill. Yes, we know that. It's a sad part of this suffering of this human existence. Desire. It is what fuels rebirth. I have actually spoken about cravings, how to give things up. I think the videos are called. I've possibly sent you some links about this. Maybe look at those old videos. I won't go into the whole subject again here and now. Look in your chanting book, if you have the Wat Marp Jan chanting book, for the Pachitya Samyupada Sutta, which is the shortened version of the sutta, the chant. And it's just the links, the 12 links of dependent origination, which is the cause of craving. And I think that is one of the best explanations of craving. It in fact is an expansion on the Four Noble Truths. And it is a alternative understanding of the Noble Eightfold Path in a way, but it specifically deals with the cause of suffering, desire. So read the Pachitya Samyupada Sutta, and if you want it in short, concise form, that chant version, I think it's about 138, page 138 or 36 of the Wat Marp Jan chanting book, sums up really how we go from ignorance and not understanding anything through sense contact into eventually rebirth, aging, sickness and death. And that is the same, this form of rebirth, this cyclical trap of samsara that we don't seem to be able to escape from, is the same as the addiction process. Getting some sensory pleasure and then enjoying that, having pleasure from it, and very impermanent, very temporary gratification, and then when it's finished wanting more, but the next time requiring more, because each time we have it the results are slightly less. So you go back through those old videos for that one and it might help you. It's hard to find a monastery, here in Australia it's hard to find any monastery at all. There is one in Perth, but they have a waiting list and don't have many rooms. What should I do, Phra Dan? I'm eager to start but don't know how in my position. Well, as a layperson you can continue, you can start your practice of Sila Samadhi Panya, and all that I talk about is that. and understand the teachings of the Buddha from the comfort of your existing home. One doesn't have to go to a monastery for this, but of course it's nice to be able to visit a monastery. But most countries of the world don't have many Buddhist monasteries. So if you're unable to travel, then I think there are some in not only Western Australia, if Perth is Western Australia. I have heard recently that there are monasteries in Eastern Australia, if that is Sydney side. I'm not sure about the geography of Australia, but of course it's a very big place, I know. So there are monasteries you can visit. There are, of course, an abundance of online resources these days that you can virtually visit when listening to Dharma talks coming from those sources you refer to. But for ordination purposes, yes, it can be difficult. One might have to travel. In which case, but consider this as part of the practice, this preparation. If you are practicing a life of, if that is your aim, ordination, if you are practicing a life of renunciation, you will soon be able to, through renunciation, reduce your working hours, but also, even though you're reducing your income, increase your ability to save, because you'll be spending less money on things you don't need, spending less money on the things you don't need, just having your bare requisites of food and some simple clothing and reducing entertainment and all of this kind of thing. So it wouldn't take long to save up to even reduce debts. People have to reduce their debts before they can ordain. And we have all had to do that, monks. We've had to save up maybe by practicing more, sila, samadhi, and developing wholesome mind states, reducing unwholesome mind states, wisdom, for some years, maybe a few years even, but consider it as part of your overall development towards ordination. It's patience, it's developing kanti, patience, and to some extent some endurance, because you may have to live a life a little less comfortable than you have previously in order to reduce your debts, save money for your travelling expenses, if that's going to be the case. But it will be no less comfortable than what you'll be going to, because the life of a monk or a nun is not a comfortable one, as I've mentioned many times before and cannot ever stress enough. It's not an escape from samsara, it is exposure to suffering in order for us to appreciate the truth behind it and find its cause. If we're able to eradicate its cause, we can eradicate the effects. This is how karma works, cause and effect, vipaka, the results. So yes, you might have to travel, but you can start today. How long are you meditating? Firstly, ask yourself, because you can't reply to me here. So if you're not meditating much, this is where you begin. That's how you start. Start reading the word of the Buddha. Not too much online, not too much in the way of speculative ideas and fanciful notions. Just the simple word of the Buddha as is contained in the Sutta Pitaka. Because this is the word of the Buddha, this is what the Buddha taught. All of the rest of the stuff is just people's ideas surrounding that. Just go to the word of the Buddha and start to really get a feel for what the Buddha taught us, which is quite simple. There is suffering, a cause of suffering, an end of suffering, and a path leading to the end of suffering. That path is your guidance. Once you have that path firmly established in your mind, as your view, your right view, the very beginning of that path, then you will go in the right direction. And I was in a country that didn't have, as I thought at the time, Buddhist monasteries. I did happen to find one quite locally, but that was to my surprise. But before, I was practicing as you are, without such support. And even then, because I was wanting to check out the different traditions, I still had to travel first in order to do that. A life of renunciation will assist you to do that, and when you are travelling, you will require less also. You'll have to take no baggage with you, no carrying cases, just some simple things like a toothbrush and a razor, and off you go to find out all about Buddhism and how you can ordain, with very little indeed. Okay, how do monks maintain personal hygiene? Brackets, mouth, body, etc. Well, the same way as anyone else. Not really sure what more I can say about that. We don't have mirrors in our bathrooms because we don't really have the need, and it's in our precepts not to have perfumes and makeup if you're a lady and adornments of this nature. But other than that, the same. We use soap and water. We may not have hot baths and jacuzzis and shower gels and power showers and things, but you know, I've had to wash in the sea before. It's a bit salty, but it gets you relatively clean. Or lakes or rivers, but that's very seldomly the case these days. Monks live in monasteries, in communities that have bathrooms and even their own bathrooms in their kutis and things like that. So yes, they keep clean, as we have to do. It's part of our rules that we keep clean and hygienic. So this is the same as a person who isn't ordained. And I think this question I answered yesterday, but I'll read it again because it's from a slightly different angle. To me, meditation seems like a form of escapism. Okay, so I did cover that in full in the talk yesterday. It certainly is not escapism. It's a place where we explore and investigate suffering, a crucible to really concentrate on the suffering, see what it is. So it's not escaping it, it's identifying it, establishing its cause, eradicating the cause, and therefore finding freedom from suffering. I've read stories about Buddhist monks committing suicide after realizing through meditation that they are actually not their bodies and not finding any purposes in having a body anymore. This is wrong view. The Noble Eightfold Path begins with right view. Understand right view and you won't have this problem of wanting to commit suicide. You will become less and ultimately completely not attached to this physical body, even this intellectual brain. But you will see that with this physical body and with this intellectual brain, we have the ability to produce karma whilst in this human realm. And it is the best opportunity in the human realm where we can produce both, as well as bad karma, also very good karma, which can assist us with where we are reborn next. Now, if you consider it pointless to do good things and commit suicide, that is very bad karma because it's wrong view, and although you're not killing anyone else, you are harming yourself. So you are killing in a sense, although it isn't directly in breach of the first precepts, because you are killing yourself. You are causing harm. People whom loved you would be harmed. The rest of the Sangha, in the case of monks, would be harmed by the effect of this. And it's also a selfish act rather than a selfless act, because you think it's going to free you from suffering. Well, if death means nothingness, annihilation, then you would not know. If there is something after death, it's considered bad karma, so it will only increase the suffering after death. So either way, it's a no-win situation. So that is wrong view. Now, you don't need to worry about that as long as you are following the word of the Buddha and not any other strange speculative ideas. With the Sutta Pitaka, you can understand what the Buddha taught us and how we can live this Noble Eightfold Path without going astray from that and getting confused ideas that we are not this body, so therefore we might as well die. It doesn't make any sense, does it, at all? Okay, is this the last question? No. Please turn on super thanks so we can leave donations with our comments. Okay, so I have heard of this, and when you have this YouTube channel format. There's a thing called super thanks, which all of these things like advertising, monetization, blah, 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 the commercial side of YouTube, you have to manually turn them off as someone who puts stuff on there. So I've had to go through the process of turning these things off, including, and I'm not sure why I turned off super thanks, I think because I'm not sure how it works, but it keeps putting, I don't know what it makes, bubbles or messages or something like this to say donate here, donate, do this, do that. Now I really am quite against any form of active seeking of donation, asking for money, being paid as a thank you. It is totally not necessary, just your comments are quite sufficient. People who want to offer dana, in terms of that is donations financially, want to contribute to the Sangha, by which way contribute to the support of my existence, so my requisites of food, clothing, shelter, medicine, can donate via the main channel page. There is a link, a couple of links, whatever they're called, buy me a coffee link, PayPal link, which you can click on, and I think it tells you how to do that. So some people contribute very kindly by that means, and that money goes towards buying this equipment to make this video, the internet to make this video, microphones which we've spoken about, what else, my medical expenses, for instance, some of which we've had a little bit more of recently, travel, visas, blah blah, all of this sort of stuff. So it's very kind of you to make that suggestion, but I think there is a reason, although I can't remember what it is, why there's no super thanks on there. I think it's because this makes bubbles and messages come up which I think are not appropriate to the discussion of Dharma and this particular environment. So although I've always preferred not to have any form of a donation button, there is technically a donation button hidden away in the channel description on the main channel page, and those buttons are buy me a coffee, PayPal, and something else, I can't remember the name of it. So those are the ways to contribute most effectively, I think. And it doesn't matter if it's a very small amount. I think that was the other thing. I think the super thanks had a minimum amount as well, and I don't think there should ever be a minimum amount, because whether it's 1 rupee or $1 million, it's the same. It's dana, it's anumodana, sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. It is contributing to the maintenance of the Sangha as a whole, and in turn myself as a bhikkhu. One thing this dude is not, I think you're referring to me as a dude, is, I don't know whether this word is laconic or lasonic, how you pronounce it. I admit I had to look this word up. I didn't know what laconic or lasonic meant. Apparently it means someone who doesn't speak very much, someone who's quite quiet. In fact, we have a word for this, noble silence. Not talking about things that are unnecessary and just talking for the sake of it. So it can be a positive or a negative term, really. It depends on the environment. In some environments it's perhaps not appropriate to be very quiet and not speak. In others it is. So on a meditation retreat we practice noble silence, so I won't say larceny, because that's a crime, isn't it? But lasonicness or laconicness would be appreciated. So I did reply to you, no, for these talks I'm not going to be laconic, as much as I could just sit here for 40 minutes and say nothing and say, there we go, that was noble silence. I don't think it would be very useful. But for the rest of my day, apart from the fact I have no one to speak to, because I live more or less in solitude, and when I am on alms round collecting food and meeting villagers in the morning, I don't speak Sinhalese, so I don't know the language, so I can't talk then. So apart from this 40 minutes, 50 minutes, hour, or whatever it is, I don't speak any other time. So I appreciate your comment, but the rest of the time I am that Lasonic. A little by choice, a little not by choice, but it is noble silence. Bhante, should I set a goal for meditation, like setting a timer for 1 hour, or should I not set a timer? Thank you. Most people need to set a timer, because an alarm, because otherwise you wouldn't know what the time was and what time to finish. So there's nothing wrong with that. It's not really so much as a case of setting a goal, but if you are able to extend your meditation time, then that isn't a bad thing. If you start meditating 10 minutes one day and then increase it by a few minutes each day, 5 minutes each day, until you get to an hour, or an hour and then you increase it by another 20 minutes and then another 20. This is whatever's within your ability in terms of what you have available in terms of time. But yes, I think really most people do need to have some form of signal to let them know that it's time to stop meditating. Otherwise, you'd have to be thinking of the time or looking at the time, and this would not be meditating. So of course, yes, that's okay. Now, someone did include a link, but I accidentally deleted it. But then if I hadn't have deleted it, YouTube would have deleted it anyway, because I don't think you're supposed to leave links in comments to other YouTube channels. Not because there's anything wrong with doing that, but they may be inappropriate. And when I did click on the link, it wasn't something I would recommend. It was some ding dong bells, probably very nice guided meditation music timer thing like this. The point of meditation is to sit with your senses guarded, seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, being aware but guarded, not stimulated by pretty scenes on a computer screen or a big screen and beautiful music and this and that and the other. That is entertaining yourself, however calming it may seem. That is not meditation. So you just simply need the alarm or the timer on your phone to go beep beep, or a nice bell if you have something like that at the end of your meditation is sufficient. Nothing that you need to be aware of during your meditation. So I kind of deleted that link because I didn't want people to think I had put this link on there as something I would recommend, because you should not be doing anything whilst you're meditating other than just that, meditating. Not watching something, not listening to something, just meditating, watching your breath, the meditation object. That's enough. That's hard enough to do. Only this external stimulation is just a distraction from that people like, because it is hard to do. It is difficult just to watch your breath. But this is the practice. This is how we develop the skill, how we sharpen the sword, okay, so that it can cut smoothly, easily. It's refining our tools, sharpening our focus. This is the development of samadhi, right through to those jhana levels we were speaking at the beginning of these questions and answers, when we can attain superior knowledges through our own experiential, for our own experience, not through hearing about it from another, not through reading about it or through others' speculative ideas, but from our own experience, here and now in the present moment, what we see, what we can actually witness for ourselves. This is meditation. So on that note, I shall leave it for today and hope there's something useful in there. And until next time, be happy and stay well. Sukhi Hotu.